Final Fantasy 15 has almost been out for 6 months now, but there are still a few questions from the game's story that remain unanswered. Some of them are rather small in the grand scheme of things, but others have a much larger significance in the overall story. One of the big unanswered questions was actually answered in episode Gladiolus, where we got to learn the exact reasons behind Gladio's decisions within the main story. But there are still plenty more questions that still remain unanswered. Perhaps they will also be answered in upcoming DLC, but who knows. Before we proceed any further though, I'd like to throw out a spoiler warning, as those questions that we're going to cover relate to pretty big plot points within Final Fantasy 15 and also Kingsglaive. Also be sure to subscribe to our channel, and make sure you hit that little notification symbol to get instantly notified when we publish new videos. Alright, my name is Daryl, and here are my top 6 unanswered questions from Final Fantasy 15, starting with, how did Prompto get to Lucis? One of the major plot points in Prompto's storyline was revealed in Zegnatus Keep, where after being rescued by the group, he tells them that he wasn't born in Lucis and is instead a Niflheim baby. Thanks to the English guidebook, we also found out that to further corroborate this, he is in fact the son of Vestal Basithia, the chief scientist of the Niflheim Empire. And from the Japanese Ultimania, we also know that when he was only 1 year old, he was adopted in Lucis by the Argentum family. Now, this gives us plenty of dots, but seemingly no way to actually connect them. Just how did Prompto arrive in Lucis? Did he escape, or was he put there on purpose? After all, he was only 1. Also, how did the Argentum family even find him and go about adopting him? I think it would be cool if we could learn more about Prompto's past in the upcoming DLC, especially as he's going to be so close to home. But part of me feels as though this was just part of a story arc that they just didn't have time to fully realise. How did Drautos keep his identity secret? General Glauca, aka Titus Drautos, is one incredibly tough guy. Not only is he the supreme commander of Niflheim's entire military, he also manages to become the captain of the Kingsglaive, an elite group of soldiers who act as an extension of King Regis. Now, I get that it's not beyond the realm of possibility that someone could act both as the captain of one king's bodyguards while also acting as the leader of another invading army, but surely this would have been quite challenging from a logistical perspective. The truth is, due to how restricted Drautos' story arc is, we don't really know how much involvement he had with either side, but to rise through the ranks as he has, you'd expect his contributions to have been fairly significant. He also acts as Nyx's mentor, suggesting they had quite a close relationship. And considering King Regis seems to know quite a lot about what's going on, it seems a bit weird that he would have missed this, unless he did know and was just waiting for it to play out. Either way, ultimately, there's not so much of a big story arc behind this question, I'm just genuinely curious. And as a side note, even though he did die in Kingsglaive, I still think it would have been cool to see him somehow return in Final Fantasy 15. How is Prompto able to fight so well? Now, I know it's not exactly uncommon for RPG protagonists to come from humble beginnings, but the fact that Prompto is able to fight alongside his allies with relative ease kind of irks me, perhaps more than it should have. You see, unlike Gladiolus, Ignis and Noctis, who have received years upon years of combat training, from what we can gather about Prompto, he's a relative newbie when it comes to fighting. In Parting Ways, the prologue novel to Final Fantasy 15, we learn that Prompto's addition to the group was rather unplanned, and they've had to put him through some crash course self-defense training. He even only picked up his grounds guard uniform pretty much as they were leaving Insomnia. Now, I know in the game he dies on a more regular basis than the other characters, and he does use a gun instead of a close combat weapon, but I just found it strange that they decided to have Prompto be so combat proficient despite having no real training. I mean, Final Fantasy 15 is supposed to be a fantasy based on reality, right? And that doesn't seem too realistic. Perhaps it's just those Niflheim genes coming to the forefront, eh? What happened to Libertus? We get to meet quite a few members of Kingsglaive during the film, from Nyx and Crow through to Pelna, Sonatus, Axis and Tread, and there's one thing that these characters all have in common: they all die in Kingsglaive. Libertus, on the other hand, manages to actually survive, but despite offering to go with Lunafreya as she looks to escort the Ring of the Luciite out of Insomnia, she rejects him and opts to go it alone. It made no real sense from a narrative perspective, but perfect sense from a budgetary perspective, as it meant they had no reason to put him in the game. But either way, due to this decision, we don't really have any idea what happens to Libertus following the conclusion of the film, as the game acts as though he never existed. He does hint that he's going back to Galad, but it's only a hint, and I can't be the only one who hopes that one day we get more story content that revolves around the members of the Glaive. Why does Gladiolus push an impossible romance? I can't be the only one who wonders what is going on when Gladiolus attempts to push forward some kind of romantic relationship between Noctis and Iris. I mean, we know even from their brotherhood days that Noctis and Iris have a special connection, but by the time we flash forward to the game, Noctis is due to be married to Luna Freya. When they meet up in Lestalem, it's clear to everyone, I think, that Iris has feelings for Noctis, but it's also clear that he doesn't feel the same way, and it's not something that could realistically happen anyway, unless, Noctis is going to blow off the wedding and run off into the sunset, damning the whole world in the process. Gladiolus surely knows this better than most. So why does he make Noctis give her some flowers? He clearly forces the issue because he knows Iris is interested, and even rather blatantly hints at this. It just always kind of felt cruel to me, and I didn't really see the point in it. How did Ignis go blind? This question has been bugging people since they finished the battle against Leviathan and were woken up by an injured Ignis. In typical Ignis fashion, he tries to pass it off as nothing but a simple flesh wound, but in reality, the group struggled to deal with this, and the realization that his eyesight was never going to recover was one of the game's strongest moments. Yet despite all of this, we still have no idea how it actually happened, as the game separates Noctis from his comrades during the fight. Something clearly went wrong during this time, and the hope is that episode Ignis helps to shine a light on exactly what happened to cause Ignis to lose his eyesight. It just has to. It's too big of a plot point for them not to cover. So that's 6 unanswered questions from Final Fantasy 15. Are there any you feel we missed? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. If you'd like to support our channel and help us grow, please be sure to head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/FFUnion. These awesome folks have already done so why not join them? Alright, thanks for watching guys, this is Daryl signing out. I will see you next time.